Place, England, year 1916, people. British Army and workers. Imagine this. It's the middle of the First World War, 1916. The battlefields of Europe are nothing but mud, trenches, and endless barbed wire. Soldiers are stuck, unable to move forward, while machine guns tear through anyone who dares to cross. The British Army knows it needs something new, something powerful, armored, unstoppable. And so, a secret project begins. A weapon that has never been seen before. But here's the twist. To protect this project, they decide to give it a code name. A name so boring, so ordinary, that nobody would ever guess what it truly meant. They called it the tank. Not armored land ship, not steel monster, just tank. Why? Because they wanted the enemy to believe it was nothing more than a container, a storage unit for water. And that's where things started to get hilariously complicated. Because when the plans reached the workers, the men building this supposed war machine, they didn't see it as a code name. They thought the army literally wanted giant water tanks. So what did they do? They started building them as water carriers, complete with places where pipes and taps could go. The secret weapon of the future was on its way to looking like a giant metal water barrel. Now, picture the scene inside the factories. Sparks flying, hammers pounding, steel plates being riveted together. The workers are sweating, working day and night, believing they are making some massive mobile cisterns for carrying water to the front lines. Some even joked, "These things are so big, they could flood an entire village." When engineers came to inspect the progress, they were stunned. Instead of a terrifying armored vehicle, they found hulking, clumsy containers that looked like something you'd store rainwater in. In fact, there are accounts that some of the earliest prototypes had fittings for taps, because the workers assumed soldiers would need to pour water out on the battlefield. It might sound ridiculous now, but at the time, secrecy was everything. Even the people building the machines weren't told the truth. The British military was terrified that if word got out about this invention, German spies would catch on. So they let the confusion continue, quietly smiling as workers unknowingly gave history one of its funniest design accidents. Eventually, the secret couldn't stay hidden forever. Officers had to explain, at least to some of the engineers, what these tanks were really meant to do. The truth began to spread within the factories. These weren't water carriers at all. They were armored land ships, designed to crawl over trenches, crush barbed wire, and resist bullets. Imagine the workers' reaction. For weeks, they had been bending metal, thinking they were building glorified plumbing equipment. And suddenly, they learned they were creating the deadliest machines of their age. The jokes about taps and faucets quickly disappeared. The focus shifted. Rivets had to be stronger, engines more powerful, armor plates thicker. Every mistake could mean disaster on the battlefield. Still, the name stuck. Even though the world's first tanks were supposed to be code-named water containers, the word became permanent. The British Army officially adopted it, and soon other nations followed. The name tank became forever linked to these armored beasts, even though it started as nothing more than a cover story. When the tanks finally rolled out onto the battlefield in 1916 during the Battle of the Somme, the soldiers didn't know what to expect. The machines were loud, clunky, and terrifying. They moved slowly, but they were unstoppable compared to men on foot. Enemy troops fled in panic, calling them land ships or even metal monsters. And yet, in the back of it all, there's a comical thought. History's first tanks might have had taps attached if the misunderstanding had lasted just a little longer. The greatest armored weapon of the century could have debuted looking like a water truck. But that's the beauty of history. It's full of accidents, misunderstandings, and little quirks that shape the future. The tank changed warfare forever, but it almost entered the world disguised as a giant metal teapot. So next time you see a tank in a movie, a museum, or on the news, remember, the word itself comes from a secret too simple for its own good. A simple code name that fooled not only the enemy, but also the very men who built them. A machine of war, born out of confusion, with a name that was never meant to last, yet has lasted for over a century.